How do you measure success? You know, that's a question that we face all over the place, today. In a very materialistic culture, that question is generally answered by how many zeros are at the end of your bank account, or how big your house is, what kind of car you drive, what kind of clothes you wear, how much jewelry do you have on. We flip on Facebook and Instagram and we see people with their pictures and their vacations and all those things, making everything look just perfect. We all know none of that is true, right? We take 45 pictures with those children so we get one where they're all smiling at one time, and when we're done, we feel like we want to beat our head on the wall. So we've got this image of success that's happening around us. And Paul dealt with this same exact thing. How do we measure success? And see, Paul was having to justify himself some in 2 Corinthians because there was a group of critics within the church at Corinth that had, in a lot of ways, kind of taken over the church. And they were filling people's minds with accusations against Paul, against his character, his conduct, who he was. They were questioning his teaching. They were questioning his credentials. And so, how do we measure that? I mean, sometimes we look around and we measure success by, the different degrees that people have. Oh, he has a doctorate, he has a PhD, and we think, oh, that's a successful person. But those are all worldly standards. The education level, the amount of money or material possessions we have, the lifestyle that we live, those things are not actual measures of success, because see, at the end of the day, those things are all temporary. None of that's eternal. All of that stuff is just here for a short period of time. We're not taking any of that with us to give you the old cliche. So what is it? What is a measure of success in Paul's mind as this church in Corinth was attacking him? Some of the people within this church, when Paul talked about success and what mattered to him, what did he do? Where did he go? The answer is found in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. Listen to what it says. It says, "Are we beginning to praise ourselves again? Are we like others who need to bring you letters of recommendation, or who ask you to write such letters on their behalf? Surely not. The only letter of recommendation we need is you yourselves. Your lives are a letter written in our hearts. Everyone can read it and recognize our good work among you. Clearly, you are a letter from Christ showing the result of our ministry among you. This letter is written not with pen and ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. It is carved not on tablets of stone, but on human hearts." So, when Paul came back to this, he was in one spot. The measure of his success was lives changed. You think, well, of course, Paul's like a pastor. He's an evangelist. He's traveling around starting these churches. Of course, that was the measure of his life. But should that really be any different for us? Is there anything wrong with having a great job? Is there anything wrong with having, things, as long as those things don't have you and it's not flipped and there's not a pride and a materialism in those things? There's not, that kind of thought process. No, there's not. But what's the real measure of success in all our lives? What is it that really matters? I come back to the idea that it is lives changed. That's more important. That's lasting. It's great to drive the big car. It's great to have the nice house. It's great to have a prosperous business. It's great to have a thriving career. But those things are also temporary. See, as I focus back on my life, the thing that I grab onto and gravitate towards that I find the most fulfillment in is seeing someone's life turn around. Seeing someone be a different person because of what God has done in their life, and just me getting to be a tiny part of that. I go back to being a youth pastor and seeing, kids' lives radically change, seeing young men and young women go into ministry and go be missionaries all over the world in places like China and Africa and South America, to see them being pastors in churches, literally at this point all over the United States. I got them scattered from almost sea to shining sea. But it's not me that did those things. It's God that did them, and I was just a little part of that. But that's where my success lies, is in lives changed. So, where's your success? You know, as you think about what matters in your life, what is it? What is the thing that brings you the most satisfaction when you look back on the things that you've accomplished and the things that you've done? Is it stuff? Is it money? Is it accolades? Or is it that you seriously helped somebody? That you reached out to them, that you loved them, that you cared for them, that you made a difference in their life? And maybe you even saw them come to know Christ. See, as Paul's talking to the church at Corinth, it is a thoroughly pagan city. It was a port city. And there was a lot of idol worship because people were coming into this port from all over the Mediterranean area, you know, from down in Egypt, from over around in Jerusalem, they were coming in from Spain, from all over to the eastern part or the western part of North Africa. They were coming in from places like even France, and all over the place. People were coming down into this area and selling their goods, and they were passing through. So you saw a lot of these different cultures coming in, and there was actually a reputation to the point that there was a phrase called to Corinthianize someone. And it meant to live on the level of sexual appetites. So Corinth was a place of a lot of materialism, a lot of sensuality. There was a lot of prostitution happening in the city. There was a lot of commerce and business happening. It was a lot of money passing hands on the ships, and as things were loaded and unloaded, and people were going into the market and going into the shops and the different things. So this was a city that was thoroughly pagan. And Paul's looking at these Corinthians and he's saying, no. It's not about any of those things. It's not about how much training you have. It's not about the money you have. It's not about how popular you are. It's not about the idol you worship. It's about the lives that have been changed for Jesus Christ. It's about the people whose lives you've impacted and helped. Even if they didn't come to know Christ, you've impacted their life by the way you've lived and the way you've cared for them and taken them in and loved them right where they are. So see, the gospel entered this town with a promise of life, of transformation through the power of Christ. People were saved, sinners were converted, and there were people that were radically changed. And so as Paul was looking at what he loved and what was successful and what really meant something to him, it wasn't that he was famous. It wasn't that he was an incredibly well-educated person. Paul was a Pharisee before he became a Christian. He would have been one of the most educated people in Jewish culture. He would have had the entire first 5 books of the Bible memorized word for word and would have known the law backwards and forwards. He would have been an incredibly educated person. He wasn't grabbing onto those things. He wasn't grabbing onto his family name. He wasn't grabbing on the fact that he was a Roman citizen. He was grabbing on the fact that lives were changed. That was the measure of his success. So as you stop and you think in your life, what do I see as making me successful? Is it worldly things? Is it things that the world has said this is what success looks like? Or are you measuring these things by the Word of God and putting your stock in things that are going to last and going to stand the test of time? Lives changed never ends. That doesn't go away. That's for eternity. And that's what we should be grabbing on. Hope you guys have a great week. It's been great getting to talk to you for just a few minutes, and I hope your groups go well.